Ever feel like everyone's talking about careers in psychology, but no one's actually telling you how to get there? Melanie McQueen is here to change that.
Melanie isn't just a mental health advocate. She's a connector, a mentor, and someone who truly understands the winding path of a psych career.
In this episode, we dive into the real-world side of psychology, how to find your fit, why networking matters more than you think, and what actually makes a student stand out, especially on LinkedIn.
Whether you're just starting out or trying to pivot, Melanie's insights will help you move forward with more clarity, confidence, and connection. Hi everyone, my name's Olivia and I'm a third-year PMB student at McMaster University.
And I'm Nicole, a fourth-year psychology student at Wilfrid Laurier University.
And welcome to the Enriched Mindset Podcast. Today, we're super excited to welcome someone whose career journey shows just how many doors a psychology degree can open. Please welcome Melanie McQueen.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today with you both.
Yes, thanks so much for being here, Melanie. But before we dive into your story, we'd like to ask you a couple of psych-themed dad jokes. So let's get started with that. Why was the HR manager bad at hide and seek?
I don't know. Why?
Because good candidates are hard to find.
That's actually a good one.
All right. Why did the psychologist go to art school?
Why?
Because they wanted to draw better conclusions.
Love that.
Okay, let's do a question.
Yeah, that's enough of the dad jokes. Now we'll ask you some real questions. Okay. So how did you go from your neuro and psychology degree to recruitment?
Good question, and I get that question very often. So originally I started my degree and I thought I was going to become a psychologist, psychiatrist, go in that route. And then COVID hit right upon my graduation, so that was when I was supposed to do my master's, and I wanted to go within the clinical route. And at that point in time, obviously everything was remote. And I was reluctant to do my clinical studies remotely. I just felt like it didn't provide the same value. So I got a summer contract position at Summit Search Group, where I work now. And then from there, I really just fell in love with the role. I felt like I was able to use the skills and knowledge I gained from my neuropsych degree within my job, and then also have that added value of helping others. So I just kind of fell in love with it, and I've stuck with it since.
Amazing.
That's so awesome. I love it. So what motivated you to pursue a career in recruitment, especially coming from a background in neuroscience, psychology, and business? Like, what was that like drive?
I think it was really driven from that aspect of helping others. So that's exactly why I went into neuropsych. It was really, it stemmed from my core value of how can I use my knowledge to help others. And then as I started doing recruitment, I was like, wow, I'm able to help others, maybe not in the neuropsych way, but within not only their job search and landing a role, but also helping them build their career. And I find that very rewarding. And so that's why I've kind of stuck with it. And I think it's something I'm going to keep doing for a long time.
Yeah. I love to hear that.
Yeah, 100%. Can you share how your time at the University of Guelph, particularly your combination of neuroscience, psychology, business, and HR, prepared you for your career?
So I think there's a lot of facets, and putting aside the general aspect of, obviously it gave me a strong foundation of knowledge in all of those areas. But I think what it really gave me is it gave me the soft skills required to be successful in the professional world. So how could I manage my time effectively? How could I prioritize my workload? Also group projects, I think it's undervalued. It really shows you how to collaborate with others, and use those different, like working with different personalities. Also the communication as well, whether it's communication with your group members or professors, or even written in projects and in essays. And then on top of that, the presentations as well. I know they're dreadful in university, but it does come in handy too when you are speaking to others or to a group, or you're presenting within the workforce. So I think it really is the soft skills that it embellishes throughout your university degree.
Yeah, I feel like group work gets so much hate, but
it does.
It really helps.
It does help down the road, I promise.
Yeah. That's so true. So could you tell us what experiences during your undergrad years set you up for success after graduation?
I would say it was really those group projects. Unfortunately, it's anything from the start to the finish. So from doing all of the research and gaining, the knowledge you need for that project, from the collaboration with the team members and different personalities, to also the presenting and putting together the project. So I think honestly, those were the parts that I dreaded the most, especially in psychology and neuroscience. I think there's a lot of academic research projects, but they really came in handy. I promise you.
Yeah. It's good to hear.
So how important has networking been throughout your career journey? And what tips would you give students or early professionals looking to build strong connections?
I love this question because I would say networking is probably the most important part. So I actually started networking even before going into university. So I got a job at a therapy clinic because I knew I wanted to pursue my undergrad in psychology and neuroscience. So I was reaching out to psychologists in the area where I lived, and I was like, I'm looking to get further experience before my undergrad. Are there any job opportunities? So from then on, I actually got an administrative assistant position at a therapy clinic.
Oh, nice.
And then I used those doctors as kind of mentors, and they kind of gave me some advice and guidance for when I do enter my studies in university, which was really helpful. And then from then on, actually, all of the jobs that I've gotten was through networking. So it is definitely the most important. I would say to students, find professionals within your field of interest and connect with them, whether it's on LinkedIn or whether it's at school, and even just set up a coffee chat or say, do you have a quick, 15 to 10 minutes to jump on a Teams call? I want to hear a little bit more about what you do, and make connections that way, because it might not open a door for you today, but down the road it will. And every conversation does hold value. So I really stress networking is number one, especially in this modern day workforce.
That's great advice.
Yeah. I'm just curious, do you still keep in contact with some of those old connections?
Some of them, yes, actually I do. And I've used them for references along the way too. Not really as a mentorship anymore since I've gone a different direction,
Right,
obviously.
yeah.
But yeah, for references and even just to check in and to see how things have been going at the clinic. So it's nice to reconnect and tell them where I've been at.
Yeah, I feel
and
like
be
that's important.
I actually pivoted severely from psychology, but it's nice to keep in touch.
Awesome. So if you had the chance to go back and change anything about your career path or educational choices, what would you do differently?
I would say networking and getting involved in more academic projects and research. So although I did start networking very young, I did not do that throughout university, or I didn't really get involved in a lot of research projects or volunteering or even clubs and extracurriculars at university. And I wish I did, because again, it does open more doors, and it could have opened more doors for me down the road. Who knows at this point? But just getting involved in the community and getting involved with like-minded people. So people that would have shared the same types of interests as me, and kind of grown with them and see where would have taken their studies and their career. I feel like I didn't do that a lot, and I wish I would have.
Definitely. So what stands out to recruiters when looking at LinkedIn profiles? And what are your best tips for growing a LinkedIn profile and building a professional online brand?
So I would say, and I'm just going to say first and foremost, LinkedIn is probably the most important piece of it's pretty much like your digital resume, right? But even with added value of your posts and your network and all of that. So I would say you want to populate it as much as possible, starting from a professional headshot, which is the first thing that any potential employer or just anyone who's connecting with you will see. A good summary, so just kind of like 2-3 sentences, nothing too extensive, but just briefly describing who you are. And then also having your experience. I like to say, don't put too much. You don't need to write, everything you've done in your role, but at least, like 2-3 points. So recruiters like myself, when we're looking at profiles, can read it over and we know what you're doing. Any achievements, any, special projects that you've gotten involved in, there's areas for that as well. And then I also say post and engage with posts. So I've learned that throughout my career, the more I post and the more I engage with others, the more traction I get myself on my profile. So really, and it's almost like getting involved in your community that way too. And then through there, you'll continue to expand your LinkedIn network, but really be engaging and don't be afraid to post, share, I like to share any accomplishments, or I like tips and tricks for recruiters, but that's my profession, but it's just really getting yourself more involved in that community.
So when applicants are competing against hundreds of other candidates, how do they make themselves stand out on LinkedIn?
Great question. I would say, again, with the engagement, so the more you engage, and also a little tip. So recruiters use LinkedIn Recruiter. And the more you engage and the more you like and you share posts, the more activity your profile has. So it'll be higher on our list. So when we're searching, let's say, for an executive assistant, and you like and you share more often, then your profile will come up above other executive assistants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a little tip.
Get
So
scrolling.
yeah. So get scrolling, get liking instead of spending that time on another type of social media. Use LinkedIn. Yeah. And then I would also just say again, connecting with people of interest. So that way, there's first, second, and third degree connections. So your profile will pop up on other like-minded individuals' profiles as well. So again, it all comes with that consistency and that engagement, I would say.
Wow.
Good. Need to do that.
Some homework for you after
Yeah. So as a recruiter managing client relationships and full cycle recruitment, what are some common mistakes you see candidates making during the hire process? So not so much advice, but mistakes.
I would say, and it's one of them is, and it's really simple, is mistakes on a resume. You would be so surprised how often I see even just the smallest spelling errors.
Really?
Yeah. So it just, the resume, again, is the first thing that recruiters or employers will see. So, just take the time to proofread it. I would say another common mistake would be lack of preparedness. So, be prepared, research the company, research the person you'll be speaking to, and really know what the conversation is going to be about. Oftentimes, I'm calling a candidate or I'm hopping on an interview and they have no idea what the organization does or what the role is all about. So it becomes difficult to even have an engaging conversation. They won't even have questions. So it's coming prepared, knowing the role, knowing the company, and even having those questions in hand.
Yeah. No, we recently just did interviews too. So I got to see the other side and all those questions. And it's it really shows how important it is to know your research. Because a lot of the questions are about kind of our podcasts and our blogs.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it makes you stand out too. If you think about it, if someone is hopping on an interview with me and they're I saw this organization's mission and values and it really aligns with mine, that will make that candidate stand out to me versus a candidate that maybe didn't have that personal connection to the company, right? So
I completely agree.
Yeah, it does make you stand out a little bit more too.
Definitely. And in your opinion, what skills are becoming non-negotiable for new graduates entering today's workforce?
I would say first and foremost, and probably the most important, is digital literacy, just because our workforce is going so much towards the direction of AI and automation. So for instance, proficiency with the Microsoft Office suite isn't enough. Being able to use CRMs, ATS systems, AI, ChatGPT, so being able to leverage those digital skills, regardless of what industry or job you're working in, it's going to be so prevalent.
Yeah. A little scary, but yeah.
Yeah. And then I would also say beyond that would be critical thinking, problem solving skills, emotional intelligence. Those are all key skills that are always going to be important, regardless of which area, we're going with digital technology. Being able to dissect a problem, being able to use your resources to find solutions, and then also being able to work with others and to understand how to work with different personalities.
Yeah,
Nice.
definitely.
And I know we talked about what not to do in an interview, but maybe you could tell us what specifically stands out to you when it's especially an in-person interview. Is it their behavior, their personality, the types of questions they ask?
I would say all of the above. And I like to say when I'm interviewing for a job, everyone will have very similar experience, right? We'll take the example of the executive assistant again.
Yeah.
Everyone will have very similar responsibilities from their previous roles. But what will stand out is your personality, right? So I always say, don't be afraid to let your personality shine. Don't be afraid to make it more of a conversation with the person you're speaking with than just having it being transactional. And that's what's going to make you stand out. Don't be afraid to, to ask about the person's day or to find a common interest and discuss that. That will give it that personal connection as opposed to just the one-sided conversation. Right.
Yeah.
So it's always those that stand out
I feel
to me.
Sometimes people focus so much on being professional and walking in, but kind of forget that the recruiter is another person.
Yeah, they want to know their personality and who they are. Yeah. That's also a big aspect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can be professional and personable at the same time.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to
exactly.
be a division, right?
Of course. Awesome. So psychology majors often think about clinical or counseling roles. What are some unique career paths within psychology and HR that people may not know about?
Great question. And I'm myself as an example as a recruiter. So I would say besides a business degree, psychology degrees are the ones I come across most often across all roles. Because if you dissect it, psychology is really just the study of human behavior, which can be applied and leveraged across so many roles. So think about, for instance, marketing and consumer behavior. You can leverage a psych degree about understanding how individuals think to be a better marketer and to create more compelling content to your target audience. Anything within communications, I would say even as far off as a teacher, that could be, a teacher, anything within sales as well, because sales too, it gives you that leverage of being able to understand someone and understand what key strategies you can use in your sales techniques to be able to actually sell the product. Anything within HR, it's very transferable. I always say human resources and psychology there's a lot of similarities between the two, but it can really be put into with whatever industry across all roles. It is very, very transferable.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's actually interesting that like psych is like the most common degree that you see in all the applications. Yeah. So what trends are you currently seeing in the labor market that students and early career professionals should be paying attention to? And how has the labor market shifted over the past couple of years? And how does this impact students entering the workforce?
I would say since obviously the pandemic, the workforce has changed very drastically. So first and foremost with remote and hybrid work, obviously. So a lot more flexibility in that way. I am seeing a lot more going back to office now. So I would say to students entering the workforce, be prepared to go back into the office. A lot of organizations are going towards that. Still keeping the hybrid model, but not full. I'm not seeing as much fully remote anymore. I would say a lot towards that digital side as well. I like to tell students that when you're thinking of your career path, think about jobs that have routine tasks that can be automated. Those will become automated with AI in the next couple of years. So you want to find jobs or career path that maintains that human touch almost, because those are the ones that are going to be kept and can't be automated. So anything within psychology as well is a good route. And then I also see a shift towards a lot of DE&I policies. So ensuring, a welcoming and inclusive workplace. And I think a lot of that does stem from, Gen Z entering the workforce, which has been incredible. So I think there's a lot of exciting things coming down the road, but it definitely has been shifted a lot. And I also say to students, keep up to date with any trends and with any digital changes, because that will be probably the top priority. And even taking extra courses, or there's like LinkedIn Learning as well to help you get familiar with us.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen like content creation in almost every big corporation. Anything you can think of. Like we have like obviously our TikTok accounts here, but it's been really popular.
Yeah.
100%.
It's exciting. I feel like it's changing in such an exciting direction with that, and with Gen Z entering the workforce, and a lot more flexibility in the workplace too. It isn't your standard 9 to 5 Monday to Friday anymore, which is nice. Yeah.
So what are your best tips for students or professionals applying to graduate school, especially for highly competitive programs like clinical psychology?
I would take this from my personal experience. So I was applying to Psych Masters, right? And as you may know, the acceptance rate is very low. Very, very low. And it also requires a lot of added, so like your personal statement, you have to do like volunteer work, sometimes research work, lab work, whatever it may be. I was unaware of this until fourth year when I started applying. Big mistake. So if that is the route that you truly feel like this is, graduate school is for you, start from day one. Year one, really get yourself familiar with the requirements needed, especially for the highly competitive programs and especially for psychology, and find a mentor within the school, or find, a professor that's doing research within your field of interest, and get the ball rolling right away. Because if you leave it till fourth year, like I do, it's very stressful. I remember cramming my personal statements in, and they had to be different for every school, and it was just, it was very hectic. So it's get started on day one, and find a good mentor.
Definitely.
That's good. So you're currently pursuing your CHRL designation, right? Yes. Is that correct? Yeah. So what value do you think certifications like this add to someone's professional career?
I think continuous learning is also a top priority in your career development, which is why I've done so many degrees and why I continue to learn it, because it really broadens your knowledge and also gives you a different perspective and lens when thinking of different problems. So for instance, myself, I'll see something from a human behavior perspective. I can also see it from a business operations lens or labor relations. So being able to dissect a problem within all of those perspectives. I think continuous learning just shows a motivation and a drive to continue to better yourself even after your undergrad. And it also, again, just gives you more knowledge. Like it can only help you to keep learning and stay up to date with trends. On top of that, when you are in your undergrad, like you learn that bulk of material, right? But 5 to 10 years down the road, it won't be as relevant anymore. So it's staying up to date with, with the new trends within, if it's HR, the new policies and compliances. So again, just really keeping your mind sharp and also keeping you competitive in the job market.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you think companies need to do to better attract and retain young talent today?
Ooh, I like this question. I would say Gen Z is very forward thinking. So I would say Gen Z doesn't focus on a base salary, for instance. When looking at a compensation package, they're looking at, what benefits are included. Are there flexible hours, wellness days? What's the company culture looking like? So really thinking beyond just the standard role and compensation. I think flexibility and adaptability is really important for companies nowadays, because that's what, this generation wants. They want a more flexible work environment, and they also want a work environment that's going to be very welcoming and very warm and very friendly. And I think, it's a good way to go, because that's how you're going to have that close-knit culture, right? Like that's how your team is going to build together, and that's how you're going to be successful as a company, is creating that culture. But I think, I would say thinking creatively in terms of the compensation package, but then also fostering a warm, inclusive, and flexible work environment.
Yeah, no, I feel like I see that a lot on TikTok, like Gen Z people saying like they don't want to live to work anymore, right? Because that's how sometimes it can feel like.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah.
So I know you touched on it a little bit, but maybe you could expand more on how you see AI and automation technologies influencing the future of psychology and HR specifically. And like, are there particular opportunities or challenges students should be preparing for?
So I would again go with like the routine rule. So for instance, if you're looking at like my previous role at the psych clinic as an admin assistant, a lot of that was answering emails, scheduling, and doing those routine tasks. That in a couple of years is going to be automated. Like that can be automated through AI, right? Yeah. So it is scary, but those jobs there won't really be a need for them anymore, but there's also going to be a need for other types of roles, like data security, data privacy. They'll need more roles that, again, have that human interaction. So I would say that's how it would shift. And it goes beyond just like an HR, it would be for any type of industry. And then also just, it also allows for more accurate. So if you are becoming a psychologist, let's say, and you're sitting with your patient, AI can actually take notes, and of course with data privacy, but can take notes for you. So then when you go back and then you're reviewing, you have your notes and the AI notes, you can have more accurate representation of the meeting, right? I know, I just went to the doctor's actually the other week, and my doctor had that and was like, do you mind? It's AI taking notes for me, so I can better have an understanding of your situation.
I can get past that.
Right?
Yeah, as long as I keep my job, I can get past
that. Exactly. Yeah. It's helpful. At the end of the day, it's really helpful, I would say.
Wow, amazing. So in your work, do you notice candidates negotiating salary enough, or are people too hesitant? And what advice would you give for negotiating?
I would say students entering the workforce now are a lot better with negotiation. I see them being an advocate for themselves, and I love that. I would say prior to negotiating, make sure you do your research. So use Glassdoor. Glassdoor is your best friend. Look at types of roles that are similar to what you're applying to and what they pay to make sure that you're not selling yourself short, but not asking for too much. If you do ask for too much, it might be out of the ballpark, and then you might not be considered. So having that realistic idea, and also thinking again of what other elements as opposed to just a salary or monetary value are important to you. Right. So maybe if it's not the base salary that you want, but they're giving you an extra week vacation or a couple wellness days, it compensates for it. So make sure you do your research. You're looking at the entire package. And then also, that's why it's beneficial to work with a recruiter like myself, especially if you're a new grad entering the workforce. We're kind of like the middleman in a situation. So we will help you be an advocate for yourself, and then we'll also relay the message to the organization. So we'll give you our advice and our tips and our tricks, and we'll ensure that it's fair. And then also being that communicator with the employer for you. So
That's awesome.
Yeah. If you don't know, how to negotiate, or, you need that extra help in your job search, I would recommend using a recruiter for sure.
Amazing.
Yeah. So for students or new grads curious about the recruitment field, what kind of salary range can someone expect starting out? And how does that earning potential grow as you gain experience in a senior role like yours?
So it would vary. So I would say starting off, and I like to put into two categories. So there's in-house recruitment and there's agency recruitment.
Okay.
So in-house is, for example, there's a large organization and you're doing the hiring for that one company. And then agency is like myself, where we have multiple clients and we hire on their behalf.
Okay.
So I would say for both circumstances, when you're first starting out, expect around, I'd say 40 to 50. It might have increased now to 50 to 55 base salary with a bonus or commission component. And then as you grow, I would say around 3+ years from there, it would be a base salary of around 60 to 70 for agency recruitment with a commission piece on top of that.
Okay.
So the commission piece would actually significantly elevate your total earnings.
Wow.
That is the benefit from working with an agency. So it's a lower base salary, higher commission. And then in-house would be a higher base salary, so potentially like 70 to 80 mark, but with a discretionary bonus. So it would be much, much smaller.
Right.
And it would depend on what motivates you. So if you're someone that's kind of sales oriented and you like to have that monetary value to help motivate you, I would say agency is the way to go. And that's, the more hustle you put into it, the more you see out of it. If you like more of that stability and you don't care too much about that hustle, I would say definitely go in-house. So you have that strong base salary and then just the discretionary bonus as an added value.
Amazing.
Oh, I didn't know there were like different types.
Yes,
Good to
yeah.
know. Well, while we're on the topic of salaries, we could show the slideshow to you. Could tell us a little bit about different careers in psychology. So I'll just pull it up.
Yeah. Okay, so careers in psychology. So a social psychologist, I would say it depends. Social psychologists can either be like within academia, so within schools. There were typically, I would say, around like an 80 to 90 base salary component. Again, it varies. Within the schools, it typically are a little bit lower, but they do have a strong benefits and RSP component side as well.
Yeah.
So these are important factors to remember too.
Right.
A school psychologist, it would be comparable, I would say, even a little bit lower. I would say anywhere from 75 to 100. Again, it would be a strong benefits package, strong pension plan, but a little bit lower on the base salary. They tend to have more job security as well because you'll be hired from like a school, academia, or like an institution.
Right.
Yeah.
Child psychologist, a little bit higher, so 80 to 115, and it would depend, again, where you're working out of. If you're working out of a hospital or a type of school, they'd be a little bit lower. If you're doing a private practice, it would be on the higher end of that. Industrial and organizational psychologists, higher. So it would be between 90 to 155. I would say 130 being that sweet spot.
Wow.
That's nice.
Yeah, corporate organizations will pay higher. You don't have the same health benefits and pension plan as you would in a school or in a hospital, but they would have that higher paying base salary.
Okay.
Psychology professor, and that would depend on what else is added to it, right? So you, based on research and like what school and exactly what you're teaching, but I would say it would be around the like 80 to 100 mark. Again, sometimes it's a lot higher if you have research grants and like those added values to it, but I would say that's kind of the standard. It could go all the way up to that 200,000 a year, but again, depending.
Yeah. Right.
It does change. Forensic psychologist would be probably one of the higher paying ones, anywhere up to 238,000 a year.
Wow.
And there's a lot more factors that encompass forensic psychology than just having kind of that client base. And there's a lot more responsibility that falls on your plate with those types of jobs. So that's why they are a lot higher paying.
Yeah. Like maybe like an unusual schedule. Yeah.
Research psychologist would be a little bit lower. It would be around I would say 80 to 90, again, depending on the grants that you have and where you're working, it does change. Clinical psychologist private, that's actually a very interesting one. They would be higher than a clinical psychologist in a hospital, just due to the private practice element to it. However, if you don't own the private practice, you'll have to pay a certain amount to the office that you're working at. So for instance, if you're billing, let's say, $250 an hour per client that you see, you'll have to give a portion to that to the doctor that owns the practice, right? So, and it's also depending on how many clients you see, and you'll likely be responsible for building out that client base yourself. So finding those clients. But it would go anywhere up from, the 100 mark to 200 and above. It really just depends on how many clients, how much you're billing, and then how much from that sum of money you have to give to that practice.
Yeah.
Clinical psychologist in a hospital would be similar to the clinical psychologist in the private practice, but again, a little bit lower on the base. I'd say anywhere up to 130 base salary. But in a hospital, you have, again, that strong pension plan.
Yeah, the benefits.
Yeah, the benefits.
Yeah.
And psychiatrist would be the highest paying one, which is actually why I wanted to go into that field.
Yeah.
It requires a lot more schooling. So, right, you have to get your doctorate because you can prescribe medication for this one. So it would be all the way up into over the 300K mark.
Oh, yeah.
But I do like to preface, the more you're paid in these roles, the more schooling you have to do. And it is really expensive. Like I remember I was speaking to this one individual and she had to pay up to $50,000 in student fees from the undergrad to master's to PhD. So it sounds great in hindsight, but it's also considering what steps do I need to take and, how many years of schooling and is that feasible for me prior to making these decisions? Even just the application process for your master's is expensive. So it's ensuring that it's something that, that is feasible for you in your circumstances. It is great down the road when we are being paid, 300 plus, but just keeping in mind the route that you need to take to get there.
Yeah. No, I remember when I was first interested in psychology and I looked at the highest paying jobs with a psych degree, and then I just started going off telling everyone I wanted to be a psychiatrist.
That's what I did too.
I feel like that's a canon event.
Yes, it is. I think
but
so.
in hindsight, so these look like they're very large salaries, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you can make that much in a sales role.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
With just an undergrad.
You just have the drive.
Yeah, exactly. So it's give and take, and it also is, what your passion, what your interest is. But, it's that those numbers are feasible with other jobs too. So if the psychology route doesn't work for you, there's other ways to apply that degree and where you can make the same earnings. So
There's hope.
I was so upset when I didn't take the route. I had vision for myself and I was like, you know what, there are other opportunities and there are other opportunities that will provide me with that growth and that monetary value as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. All right, I think that's all of them.
That's the end of the slideshow? Okay. So how do you personally manage or approach your own career-related financial goals?
So I would say, and I kind of put that into two categories. So I'll have my personal financial goals laid out and where I would like to be and where I'd like to sit. And then from there, kind of plan, with my role 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road, where I want to be with that salary. And then I have that laid out for myself. And then from there, I have those conversations with my managers and say, this is where I want to be. What KPIs and what metrics do I need to hit in order to get there? So it's setting those goals out and having it laid out. And you can even start by doing a long-term goal. So, 10 years down the road, I want to be making this much money. Okay, let's step backwards and make medium goals. And then from there, short-term goals and lay it out and plan it out for yourself so you have that visual.
Yeah, amazing.
I really like that. What's your take on side hustles? I know I've probably tried so many in high school.
Yes.
Oh my God. I would say it depends. I think I always like to say you're more than just your day job. So it's always good to have, a passion project or a side hustle, especially if it's bringing you in a side income. It's all the better. But if it's distracting you too much from your day job, then that's when I would say maybe realign your priorities.
Yeah.
But it always is good to have something along with your everyday job. Just what if it doesn't work out with your everyday job? You have that side hustle.
Yeah.
And also just giving you another outlet, another source of, hobby.
Backup.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any side hustles?
No.
No side hustle here.
No, I think the only one I actually worked was lawn mowing. Lawns.
Lawn mowing.
I mean, yeah, that works.
I charge $30 a lawn.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay,
That's good.
I mean,
cash.
my mom pays me to fold her towels for her
I would
clinic.
fold my mom's towels.
So I guess that's my side hustle. But
That's good.
do you have any?
One. No, I always thought about doing tutoring, like French tutoring, because I'm bilingual. I was like, maybe I'll just do it in my building or something if there's kids, but I never got around to it.
Yeah.
Maybe I will.
Yeah.
And I'll let you know.
Maybe one day. Yeah. So is there a motto or a mantra that you live by professionally that has helped guide your success?
Be your own advocate, or there's no better advocate for yourself than yourself. And I know it sounds so simple, but when you enter the workforce, you'll understand that although you have your managers or mentors to help guide you and you have your friends and family, there's no better person that knows you, knows what you want than yourself. And there's going to be no better fan and supporter than yourself. So show up for yourself, support yourself, and be kind to yourself and believe in yourself. It truly is. If you don't believe in yourself, then how do you expect others to believe in you?
Yeah.
That's very sweet.
Oh, I love that.
I love
it. And what's one piece of advice you always give to your students or new grads that you wish you had received yourself? Maybe something that you didn't know.
I would say, other than the be your own advocate, network and get yourself out there. Don't be shy to connect and have conversations with others. Again, you never know what opportunity a conversation might allow down the road. So really just don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and don't be afraid of change, because it's your career path or even just your life path isn't going to be what you had envisioned for yourself. And that's okay. That's okay to pivot. And honestly, everything does happen for a reason. So just be open and receptive to change, because it's meant to happen. It really is. And, the more you get stuck in your ways, the more closed-minded you'll be. So really just allow for the change and embrace it.
Amazing.
I love it. So as we're ending, is there somewhere specific that our listeners can find you and learn more about you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would say my LinkedIn profile. Yes. My LinkedIn profile. And, don't be afraid to connect with me. I'm always happy to have conversations and help with career development, or even if it's resume building or anything like that. Always happy to jump on a meeting and talk a little bit more and just give some advice. I always tell students that I speak to at events and things, connect with me, don't be shy. If I'm that stepping stone for you, I'm that first person to talk to, I'm more than happy to be it. So.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Well, I think
thank you.
The end, but thank you so much for coming. It was such a pleasure talking to you.
Yes, it was great. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I was watching the podcast videos before this, and it's wonderful work, and I love what you guys are doing. So
thanks so much.